Who was the British general who surrendered at Yorktown and ended the Revolutionary War? Anybody remember his name? I went to Great Britain one time and there was a statue of him at Westminster Abbey. General Cornwallis. Now think of Cornwallis, but actually it was Cornwallis. Yeah, General Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown, again because the British Army split itself in two and the colonial army whipped him piecemeal, and Cornwallis was promised that he would receive help from General Clinton. The help came 5 days after Cornwallis had left, but that was not Cornwallis's fault. All right, now, why do we remember Benedict Arnold? Benedict Arnold, he betrayed his country, went over to the British. Betrayal is considered one of the worst acts that a human can do to one another. I felt betrayed one time, or I was betrayed one time, and I haven't gotten over it yet. And that's been 34 years ago. Yes, believe that. All right. What's that?
Dante's Inferno. It's the lowest level.
Yeah, the lowest level. Yeah, Judas Iscariot was among them. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. More from chapter 7. All right. Washington and his men spent a very, very bad winter at what place in Pennsylvania? This is the winter of 1777. Anybody remember? Very, very bad winter. Who? Valley Forge. And if you go to Valley Forge today, there's a monument there to remember the flame of freedom burned very, very low. All right. The story goes that George Washington freed his slaves when? When he died and when his wife died. No, he died before his wife died. But if you look at it in more detail, and I just learned this, half of his slaves weren't freed because they were owned by the Custis people, and his wife was from the Custis family. But his slaves were freed when he and his wife died. The Custis slaves reverted back to the Custis family. I've mentioned this in today's lecture. Who invented the cotton gin? Eli Whitney. He's also famous for inventing the American system where that all parts were interchangeable. Interchangeable parts. He made rifles and he could produce them. I mean, if a man does nothing more than make a barrel and another man makes a stock, it's found out they could put together a whole lot more rifles, and better quality rifles too, than they could by making them the old-fashioned way. And the parts were interchangeable. All right. Who's the man who said, I don't want King George III to have to put his glasses on to see my name? So he wrote this, he signed the Declaration of Independence in very, very large letters. John Hancock. Yeah, very large letters. Let's see. All right. Can anybody name me a couple of reasons why the British lost? They had, what's that?
Food supply, lack of food supply.
Lack of food supply, yeah, they did not want to forage the people. Their lack of food supply, they depended on England to supply them, and that was a long, long trip. Also, think about help from the French. They would only fight in the warm weather, and the colonials would fight in any kind of weather. And the colonials surprised them more than once by attacking them when they were not ready. But basically, they did not use the loyalists, who could have won the war for them, because more than a third of the colonials were loyalists, but they would not enlist much of the aid of the loyalists. So all these things helped them to lose. All right. Now, chapter 8. How many years does a president serve? All of you? 4. How many years does a representative serve? 2. How many years does a senator serve? 6. Senators serve 6. Now, there's exceptions. For instance, if a senator dies, and they have a special election to elect a new senator, he will, like say the senator died after 2 years, the new senator will serve 4 years to fill out the term of the one who died. But that's an exception. And the same thing, if a representative dies after 1 year, they will elect another representative, but he'll only serve 1 year. In other words, all 435 members of the House are elected every 2 years, all 435. Senators, 1/3 of the senators will be elected this 2 years, 1/3 the next 2 years, and 1/3 the 2 years after that. So the Senate has some continuity. We elect about 34 senators every 2 years, 33, 34, and the next we elect 32 or 34 more. All right, very important right now. How many senators have to vote for impeachment to remove a president from office? How many senators today have to vote for impeachment?
Isn't it like 2/3?
2/3. Okay. What this means, folks, an actual number is 67. 66 and 2/3, that means 67 senators have to vote to remove a president from office. The word impeach means the House brings the charges. We've had 2 presidents that were impeached, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. What about Nixon? Nixon was about to be impeached, but he resigned. He had no chance to win impeachment. Both both Johnson and Clinton were not removed from office. The Senate found them not guilty. In both cases, the majority of senators voted, but it was not a 2/3 majority, so they stayed in office. All right. How many senators are elected from each state? 2. Okay, moving on to chapter, well, I know more of chapter 8. What was wrong with the Articles of Confederation? It was,
No way to fund itself.
it was too weak, basically, too weak. The Articles of Confederation just simply, no way for the central government to protect private property. The central government could not enforce treaties, could not levy taxes. They could sell government lands, but then when that government lands ran out, they had no way to raise revenue. All right. Oh yes. While the French were having a revolution, a bunch of slaves revolted in the New World. In what country am I thinking about? Haiti. A bunch of slaves revolted in Haiti, and it was the only successful slave uprising in the Western Hemisphere. Who sold the Louisiana Territory to the United States? Who? Say again? France. Yeah, France, led by a man named Napoleon, sold the Louisiana Territory to the United States. All right. Let's see. Oops. All right. All right. The word slave is not used in the Constitution. What do they do? What do they call them instead? They were 3/5 of person, but what were slaves called? Persons or other persons. Such persons or other persons. And if you read the original Constitution, you'll see that word such persons or other persons. The 13th Amendment that was passed while Abraham Lincoln was still alive freed the slaves. And by the way, the 13th Amendment was passed without any of the southern states having a say-so because they had left the Union. That meant only the northern states voted it in. And the southern states were told to get back in the Union, you must accept the Constitution as it is. They did. All right, what kind of tax is used to protect your home industries? Tariff. Tariff to keep foreign goods out and to keep your own people free from foreign competition. That's a tariff. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, what was the nation's first railroad? The nation's first railroad, the Baltimore and Ohio. That company is still in existence to this day. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. Who was the first vice president who took over when the president died? Vice president. The president was William Henry Harrison, if that helps. And the campaign slogan was Tippecanoe and Tyler too. The man's name was Tyler. John Tyler. Yeah, he took over when the president died. All right. Who was the Mexican president during the Mexican War? Santa Anna. Santa Anna, known for his hatred of everything American. All right, let's see. How did Jackson feel toward the Bank of the United States? He hated it. He said it makes the rich richer. And so he took the money out of the federal bank and wound up causing an economic downturn. And speaking of economic downturn, if you're watching, this country might be heading for one. Oh, by the way, what is the worst month in the year for the stock market? Anybody know what it is? What's that?
November.
You're close. The big economic crash that occurred, that brought about the Great Depression, occurred in October. And there have been many, many stock market sharp downturns, including 1987, when in one day the market lost a third of its value in 1987. Probably before most of people's time, but October has been the worst month of the year for the stock market. This is day number 2 of stock market trading. And the market, the market is tanking, folk. Now, for an investor, that's a time to, yeah. But you got to wait now. You don't want to get in while it's still going down. You try to figure out where the bottom is going to be, and when it starts going up, get in. But you got to be kidding. That's risky. It's a risky bid, but this is the time, folk, to buy. The market is way down. Get in, if you have anything to get in with. And be aware, you can lose. All right, folk. Everybody have a good weekend. I hope to see you all back here on Monday. And this, going over the test I just did with you, it is recorded.